Hello, NEC Teens. It is my pleasure to be in front of all of you today. Thank you all for being so welcoming and so friendly. Thank you again for Horace for the amazing introduction. I'm sure you've all seen a presentation on anti-bullying before. Mine will incorporate a bit about my own story, how I was bullied, how that led me to getting social anxiety, and how I was able to eventually overcome that. Hopefully, somebody in here who might be going through similar struggles will be able to overcome that as well. There'll be slides, there'll be questions, there'll be ways for you guys to engage. I'm 21 years old, and I'm not afraid to admit that I struggled with social anxiety for 10 years because I was bullied in school. I didn't enjoy school much, but the reason I'm not afraid to admit that is because 1 in 3 young teens, like you in this room, feel like they've experienced bullying in the past or in the present. Hands up, has anybody in here can confidently say that they've experienced bullying before? Well done for all of you that put your hands up and were vulnerable with me. Are you able to play this video? And can somebody tell me how that video made them feel? Quite inspired. What percentage of teens do we feel like have experienced bullying before? 78, 63, 57. The number that I researched online was 40%. It could be a lot more, or it could be that people have experienced other things such as harassment, which doesn't technically count as bullying. So we need to take a step back and understand what actually is bullying. Does bullying happen at the church? Well done to everybody. Bullying takes place anywhere, at work, at school, when we get older, and it can lead to people hurting themselves, taking their own lives. The effects of bullying aren't to be underestimated. The agenda for today, what bullying does to you, how I use this method, this framework to overcome bullying, reframing how bullies make you feel, and fourth, an action you can take before this weekend ends. 3 conditions must occur for bullying to be bullying versus harassment versus something else. Is anybody confident enough to give me a guess on what one of those conditions might be? Well done, Shona. Repetitive? One-sided? Fantastic. Has to be intentional. Repetitive, an imbalance of power. This could mean someone's physically stronger than you, the fact they've got information about you that might be private, and it has to be intentional. They can't just do it once and it can be considered bullying. Hey, that's mean. No, it has to happen again and again and again to the point where you feel like you have to reach out for support. There are 4 main types of bullying that I'd like everybody in this room to be aware of. Any guesses? Cyberbullying. What's cyberbullying? What could happen on social media?
Posting pictures of someone, saying hate comments.
Well done, Mark. Give me an example of physical bullying. Punching, slapping, pushing, shoving, spitting.
Verbal bullying. Someone says something to you that hurts your feelings or criticizes who you are as a person.
They might criticize your appearance, your personality, and I'll take you through how I was personally bullied. And the final thing, that is a bit harder to guess. Anybody take a guess?
Indirect bullying.
That 4th type is social, when you feel made to be left out of things, such as groups, activities. Has anybody in here heard of a party that they weren't invited to, but everybody else was invited to? In the cyber world, has anybody known of a group chat that was created without them being wanted to be made a part of it? Verbal, social, physical. Finally, cyberbullying. Where does cyberbullying happen? It happens on social media, platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, the comment sections, texting and messaging apps, WhatsApp, iMessage. Does anybody here play any games? How would you avoid getting into bad situations in a game like Call of Duty, Daniel?
Don't play with more random people.
And what can cyberbullying include? Someone might have private or personal information about you, such as where you live, a picture of you that you don't want to be shared with other people. That gives them an imbalance of power. They could use that to their advantage to cause you harm, posting false or harmful content, and mean messages and threats. Almost half of the people in this room had their hands up for they've experienced bullying. I'd love to come around, and if you're confident enough to share your story, I'm confident enough to share my story with you in a second. Please let me know how bullying makes you feel. Self-conscious. Withdrawn. Hurt. All the teens are contributing. The youngest in the room. Discouraged. Insecure. Unworthy. Alien. Alienated. Angry. Isolated. Quiet. Overthinks everything is something that I really related to. A classroom, you're meeting new people, and you're overthinking every interaction that you have with them. What will they think of me? Am I wearing the wrong thing? How do I approach them? What do I say? What if I said the wrong thing? What if they think of me in a negative light? Apologizes constantly. Do any of you guys feel like you apologize too much for things you don't have to apologize for? So I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry. The insecurity comes out. But in reality, there's nothing to be sorry about. Avoid certain places. I would avoid going to the hallway because if I could see my bullies and I would check the corner, I know I would get physically attacked. If you don't talk to people about it and you constantly feel like with everybody you engage with, you're bullied, that means that you start to think you're the problem. In reality, the bully has hundreds of different reasons why they might bully you. They might have problems at home, they might be trying to fit in with other bullies, they might have negative role models. On the contrast, somebody says that you're a great person, they're there for you. How does that feel? Seen? Relieving? Worthy? Validating. This is how we all deserve to be felt. No one deserves to be bullied. Included, safe to speak, confident. When you see somebody being bullied, the best thing you can do is stick up for them, make them feel included, make them feel worthy, validated. I was bullied based on my eyebrows, my hair, my dress sense, my personality, for who I was, for how I sounded, my nose, my face, the list goes on. Everything under the sun you can think of, I was attacked for. And at the time, I didn't even realise that I was being bullied. I just felt this is who I am, this is what I have to go through, this is my day-to-day experience. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll realise that this isn't how people deserve to be treated. You can look at me and think, he didn't deserve to go through this, but it happened. All these things for being different. Obviously, not all my encounters of being bullied as a child was filmed, but I was fortunate enough to have this one filmed.
One more time, one for luck. Good, do it.
I'm very sorry. My attacker would tell me to get on my knees and apologise, otherwise he'll punch me in the face. And that happens more commonly than we think in schools. As everyone mentioned before, punched, slapped, kicked, pushed, and then they'll share it online. That was my reality. Verbally, I was bullied on a consistent basis. Kids would say my eyebrows were thicker than my head hair because I had thick eyebrows, but I had waves at the time, right? Obviously, I have an afro now, but for my afro, I would get called pineapple head, noodle head, spaghetti head, mop head, and that's very common for ethnic or religious minorities to be attacked. Has anybody heard any comments about their hair before in this room?
I used to have my natural hair out, and I used to put in 2 buns right, and every single time someone saw those 2 buns, they would call me Mickey Mouse hair, because I look like Mickey Mouse.
Thank you so much, Shanique, for being vulnerable. Can we give Shanique a round of applause for... I've had my teeth done, but before this, I had a gap in the middle of my 2 big teeth, my 2 front big teeth. I was insulted for my intelligence because of how my teeth was formed. Going around wearing the polo shirts that my mum got for me, that I thought were super cool, turns out they weren't that cool at school because I wasn't wearing jackets or wasn't wearing other types of clothing. I was made fun of. Bullies will target you because you're out the norm, not just because you're an ethnic minority or religious minority. You know, brown kids are terrorists, they'll mock their hijabs. Mixed race kids, I was called half caste. Polo shirts, just for being out of the usual, out of the normal. But in reality, being unusual is what gives us our strengths, is what makes us unique, is what allows us to have a story that we can share in the future to impact others. Standing out makes us achieve great things. Maybe you can tell from my personality, I've got quite a lot of energy. Back in secondary school, my energy was high, but because of that, people thought it was okay to call me autistic, ADHD, the R word. They would say I'm annoying, I'm jarring. Music was actually one of my favourite classes because I did piano lessons outside of school, so I did very well, my teachers loved me, and I got merits. At one point, I was called autistic in the middle of a music lesson in year 7 in front of other kids to get a reaction, to get a laugh out of them. One day it just really got to me and I didn't know how to react. So I left in tears. A teacher found me in the corridor and she invited me into her office. I was hesitant to go because the teacher had previously told me off for not having my uniform correctly. I didn't want to snitch on the other kid as well. I told her that a kid called me autistic and that's why I was upset. Luckily I told the teacher because after that day, they stopped bullying me. The teacher actually went and had a discussion, gave them a detention, made him write an apology to me, a handwritten and a verbal apology to say what they did was wrong and they shouldn't do it again in the future. Sometimes verbally can affect you more than physically. Before I go on to this, does anybody else like to share a story? Again, very proud of you for sharing your story.
There's this guy in my college who's so many people. They always say negative things, but still they admire me.
Can we give Divine a round of applause?
I should cut all my hair off. These kids in my school, I just like licked their hand and they like hit me in the back of the head. After that, I decided to grow my hair up. I dyed it and then I kept on getting gold sponging.
My friends are like really African, so they don't believe in sunscreen. My skin got darker, and then I was like bullied for that.
Thank you so much, Dinger and Hazel. Dinger, Spongehead, something I've been called, Hazel, for not wearing sunscreen.
I really hated PE. Whenever I had to get changed, I'd always go inside the cubicles to avoid everyone. And one time, they were like playing around with a basketball, and they like threw it over the cubicle, and then it turned on the shower, and then all my clothes and everything got wet, and then I ran out crying, and they were just laughing at me, and it was a really awkward experience. And when I told the teachers, no one like.
Thank you, DJ.
My hairline, yeah, is cut. People call me smiling uncle. Sometimes they make fun of me saying my hairline's cut, Mark never say that.
Okay, again for DJ and Mark, and thank you. After hearing stories from each other, do we feel like bullying is more common than we initially thought? What Mark said was for his hairline. DJ, he was in the PE changing rooms trying to change by himself. Someone would throw a basketball over the top of the cubicle, turn on the shower using the basketball, wet all his clothes. They would laugh at him. Eventually the teachers didn't take action about that. Why do bullies target ethnic or religious minorities, different from their peers? If you're considered unpopular, I was always the unpopular kid. Students perceived to have a low self-esteem. Anybody know what that word self-esteem means? The way you see is fantastic. A bully sees you as weak. It means easy pickings, easy targets. He's not going to do anything about it. Those who are different from others, those who seem weak, those who are by themselves. Bullies bully for a variety of reasons. Parents aren't giving them enough attention, so they go to school and they try and get attention from their peers. Maybe if I bully this kid, that'll make other people laugh and I'll get the attention that I crave. Things aren't going well at home, they decide to take it out on another person. They've been bullied. This is how they perceive relationships with other people. We have good role models that tell us how to behave, treat others with respect, treat others with kindness, be nice to one another. But if your role models aren't doing the right things, have you ever noticed that bullies kind of seem to hang out together? The people you spend time with, you are a product of the 5 closest people. Be careful of who you hang out with and what they're doing. If you see your friend bullying, stay away from them, call them out on it. Jealousy, you might be the nerd, you might have clothes that the bully wants. Keep others from bullying them, because I don't want other people to know that I'm afraid of heights. I bully somebody else who's afraid of spiders, so the attention's away from me and more on them. Essentially, this was an 8-hour coach trip, there and back, and throughout the entire 7-day school trip, I was sat on the coach by myself, the only person. When I got to the camp, I spent most of my time by myself. My dad forced me to go on this trip called Trabid, and he said, you need to get out of your comfort zone, you need to be in this environment of other people. It was the worst trip of my life. I hated it. It was good for me because I got out of my comfort zone. The whole time I was just depressed. I was upset because no one wanted to speak to me. I was sat by myself, no one cared. If I wanted to walk with other people, I had to get their approval. I'd be called a tag along, or Kieran's tagging along today. Do I deserve that? PE, when DJ was talking about the PE changing rooms, I was nodding my head frantically because I hated PE. Why? Not because of what we were doing. Like with music, I love music, but because when I got into the PE lesson, suddenly no one wanted to be on my group. I'd either have to work with the PE teacher in pairs, or I'd have to be by myself, sit on the sidelines. People would fight to avoid being in my group. Let's say we were playing dodgeball. Oh, okay, I guess we'll take Kieran then. Finally, never invited to events. This ended up being a strength because people didn't want me to come to their party. Later on, it allowed me to become a leader and organizer. I realized the only way to actually get involved in events is to create them myself, to build my own community, to find people who related to me, who wanted to spend time with me. Cyberbullying in the digital realm. Nights I couldn't sleep because I had to constantly monitor my phone. Added to these group chats I didn't want to be in. They were saying my name, sending pictures of me, rude things, and I'd have to double check, half swipe to see. So what, I got bullied. As I mentioned at the start, it led to social anxiety. I had really strong difficulty making friends for a long time. Constantly worried about making friends, being judged. I didn't want to go to places. I was quite an introvert for a long time. Being able to speak in front of a stage like this was one of my biggest accomplishments in life. Depression. Loneliness, anxiety, depression, these are all effects from bullying that some of you may have felt. Excluded, when everyone's laughing at you, you're made to firm the laughter. I hated school. I would go home after school, go to my bedroom, cry. I would live with just my nan. What's wrong? Kieran, tell me about it. I didn't have the heart to tell her, and I've never had many friends. What should we not do when getting bullied? Keep quiet? Bully back, never fight back, don't skip school, don't skip activities. What happened with me was year 7 and 8, I had a bully who would make fun of me in class. It would make me hate going to lessons. After year 8, I was like, yes, the bully's no longer in my year 7, 8 class. He ended up coming to the basketball court where I used to play with my friends in year 10 and 11. He would take control of the situation, tell my friends, you're not allowed to be with this person, he has to sit outside and not play this game. My friends would hate him as well, but they wouldn't want him to be there. And at the same time, we were too powerless to do anything about it. Don't ever think it's your fault. A bully's perception of you is not who you are. Speak about it with people, keeping it to yourself. You never know how long that could go on for, how that might change your perception of yourself. Any ideas on how to overcome bullying?
Speak to God and find confidence in yourself.
Carrie said, speak to God, find confidence in yourself, build back your confidence. Someone comes up to me and says, you're a clown. What should I do?
Stand up for yourself. Tell them that I'm not a clown. It's not nice.
Cooper said, stand up for yourself. That's not okay. You're not a clown. Courtney said to tell a teacher. If you can't find a teacher, who else could you tell? Friends, adults, parents, siblings, grandparents, your leaders, the people in here today, your community, your NEC Teens. Build your army. I had one friend, my family, Horace, online resources, there's hotlines, there's websites. Hopefully by the end of today, you can all name at least one person from each of these categories. As I mentioned before, the weakness ended up being a strength. I was never invited to social events. Being able to now be a leader and organizer. Being quiet, you're now a good listener. You're now a supportive friend. You're now someone that people want to have around them. This is my framework that I invented last night to help you overcome bullying. I call it the SAFER framework. Can we all say SAFER? SAFER. Can I get 2 volunteers to the front, please? Role play. Who wants to be the bully and who wants to be the victim? Courtney, I don't like you. You say something mean to Courtney.
You're annoying.
You're annoying. Now, what's the first thing Courtney should do?
Say it back.
Say it back? No.
She should not give an emotional response. She should not be bothered by it, really.
Tell her to stop, perhaps. So Courtney, you tell her to stop. The strength from being silent, not responding, not giving an emotional response, not giving the response the bully wants out of you. So now that Courtney's told her to stop, the situation's uncomfortable. What should Courtney do? Move. So, keeps doing it to Courtney again and again and again. Should Courtney just keep it to herself? What should Courtney do? Find support. Who can Courtney go to? Mummy and Daddy. Right, so. Courtney now feels like she's starting to forget who she is. The bully's creating a perception of her. Courtney needs to remember who she is. Right, so can you name one great thing about yourself, Courtney? One positive.
I know who I am.
You know who you are? And finally, reclaim identity. Thank you so much, guys. Next slide. And yeah, thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you so much for sharing. That was very eye-opening and valuable. In your own experience, did you ever find support, or what made you not seek support if you didn't?
The biggest mistake I made for a long time was not finding the support sooner. And when I did do that in my music lesson, that was the best decision I ever made, because it meant that bully stopped bullying me. And if I did that for other bullies, they would have stopped bullying me as well. I was in a school with supportive teachers. It's important for teachers and parents like us to not just ignore it, to actually take action to encourage a child to speak about it.
There's effects of bullying afterwards, for example, low self-esteem and things like that, or you may hear the voices of your bullies years later. How do you overcome that?
Effects of the bullying may still be with you. How do you overcome that? Bullying affects us all differently. I was isolated, I felt depressed, I felt anxious, and overcoming social anxiety is a completely separate topic of exposure therapy, and that means saying hi to people in the street, complimenting people, gradually building your interactions with other people. The effects of bullying can get to the point where, as we said at the start, people in the church have taken their lives. They've wanted to hurt themselves, harm themselves, and it might seem like an extreme case, but we don't know what people are dealing with internally. If you are going through that sort of situation, sometimes it's best to get the help from someone who's experienced, who's a professional. It's always important to be grateful for who you are, what makes you special, right? I love my hair, I love my eyebrows, I love my personality, I love my energy, I love my confidence, I love my dress sense, I love who I am. So, thank you so much, everybody.